everybody, it's Mom of Two, Wife of One. Thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel. I am a mommy, I'm a wife, I'm a content creator, I'm an editor, an author. I'm a little bit of a few different things, all related to communications and related to speaking. And that's why you guys are here. Obviously, you can tell from the title of the video, we're here to talk about Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 10, which is called, let me see. What is this episode called? It's called Love is Up in the Air. And I guess it's called that because the couples are getting closer to saying the word I love you. I don't really think they are. I don't think any of them are really as close as they think they are. They're really not. But last night we had, fortunately, also we're down to 4 couples, which is great. Got rid of the kind of dead weight. Though I will say this episode, it was dry. It dragged on a little bit and not a lot of interesting things really happened. Not really. I do have some notes, but it's like, it's nothing really big happened. So at this point, they have 5.5 weeks left of the experiment. So that means they've been married for all of 2.5 weeks. It's still very fresh, very new. And to kind of speed things along, the experts will do things throughout the experiment to make them have tough conversations. They'll visit with them throughout that 8 weeks, obviously. So this episode, Dr. Pepper sent them all conversation topics to kind of get them to open up a little bit and become more vulnerable. So I will say that this episode, MVP, well, not MVP, most improved couple by far is Gina and Clint. They have come such a long way since the honeymoon, and even since returning back from the honeymoon. They're living together, still in separate bedrooms. But this episode, I was so incredibly impressed with both of them. I could clearly see both of them trying. I could clearly see that they are starting to really, admire each other and think about each other. And it really did my heart really well. So I actually want to start with the two of them. So started the episode with Clint FaceTiming his mother and getting advice. And what I liked is that he didn't get advice from her when it comes to being in a relationship. He wanted advice specifically because she is a business owner and Gina is a business owner. So I love that that's the angle that he took when he called his mom. And he asked her about if it was hard for her to balance her relationships while maintaining her business. And she said it wasn't hard. She's like, it's not hard now. But in the beginning, everything was about the business, and it was difficult for me because the business is your life and you wanted to succeed. And most businesses in the first 2, 3, 4 years, it's very, very, it's a crucial time. So you have to be overly dedicated, and sometimes things fall by the wayside. So I like that he was able to get that feedback from his mother. And I think it will help him to be a little more, not sympathetic, may not be the word, but I guess a little more patient with Gina, because she is always talking about her career. She's always talking about her salon, but it seems clear that she is in the beginning stages of this whole thing. Like, they have a small space now, but she's building a storefront not a storefront, but she's building a bigger space for them. So obviously a lot of time and attention is going to go to that. But Clint also understands that there needs to be a balance. And I feel like he's starting to realize, okay, that's where I come in. Yes, she's really busy. Yes, this is very important to her. I'm going to support her as my wife, but also as my wife, I know I need to make sure that she has some fun in the midst of all this work. So I'm glad that he's starting to understand what he needs to do. And the thing is, though, being that person can become tiring after a while if you don't see the other person trying to reciprocate. What I mean is, if Clint understands that Gina is really busy with work and he's providing these opportunities for her to take a break, if I'm in Clint's position, I want to get to a point where I don't always have to drag you away. I want us to get to a point where you understand the importance of having this balance of fun and of work, and you start taking it upon yourself to take off days or, to schedule some fun time with me. I don't want to have to always be the person who is making those kind of arrangements. So I know Clint has to kind of start the ball rolling, and I hope that Gina will kind of pick it up and be like, okay, you know what? You're right. We have to make time for each other. And while I love my job and everything like that, this is a marriage. I committed to this marriage. I'm committing to you. So you're right. Let's start making time for each other. So I'm hoping that's what happens in the future. But I love that he visited her at her salon. He got to see her in her environment. He got to meet the salon girls, as Gina calls them. And he seemed really impressed. He's like, this is great. Like, I can see how ambitious she is, and I'm just really impressed with her. And I was like, okay, I like that. He went into her territory very confidently and wanted to see what everything was all about. And I love that he got that opportunity to do that. And I love that she reciprocated and went with him on the sailboat. And he said before that he's like 8th generation sailing. Like, this is his passion, his love. This is what he does. So I love that they both took the time to enter each other's world, to figure out more about the person and to figure out how they can combine their worlds together. So I really, really enjoyed watching them explore those things. I thought it was so sweet. But I did say that they're still not kissing each other. I don't think they've kissed since the honeymoon at all. They're not really they're not physical with each other at all. And I guess, baby steps, because it has only been 2.5 weeks, but it's like, I mean, you could kiss her on the cheek. Maybe she could kiss you on the cheek, but there's like no touching really. Like, they're not holding hands. They hug. And at least the hug isn't like a fake hug. It's not like a pad. They are actually hugging, but it's like, I mean, hopefully it grows into something more. But that's definitely one thing I noticed, that they didn't have a lot of physical contact with each other this episode. But again, it's still early and they're still kind of feeling each other out. But I can definitely see them making an effort, which I really, really enjoy. That made me so happy to see. And so they had a conversation. They used some of the conversation starters that Dr. Pepper gave them. One thing I did like is they had this interesting conversation about holding hands, because Dr. Pepper said you should hold hands when you answer these questions. And Gina asked him, are you a biscuit person or are you a waffle person? And I love that, because I have that distinction in my head. When you hold somebody's hand like this, that's definitely more platonic. That's friend. This is how I hold hands with my kids. But when it's like my husband, he's the only one that I hold hands with like this. And it's a very simple thing. It's not a big deal at all. But I thought it was cute calling it biscuit and waffle. I've never heard that before. But I was like, oh, that's cute. And they decided to waffle, because Clint was like, well, I'm a waffler. I'm a waffler. This is what I do. I was like, all right. And I love that they held hands through it. I thought that was a great note from Dr. Pepper for them to do that. And so one of the questions that was asked was, I guess, about, not really know what the question was about, but it kind of led to them talking about things that made them sad or things that caused anxiety or just kind of like dark spots in their life. And Gina talked about going through therapy to deal with some childhood trauma from her parents divorcing really early, and how she's stronger now and she's had to kind of change her mindset about things. And he talked about when he got a girl pregnant and she miscarried, and he was like, I really wanted the baby. And I was so distraught that physically I like broke out in like a full-blown rash, because I was just so like upset, and I've never had a physical reaction to an emotional feeling before. And it was, obviously it's not a great story. It's not like a happy story, but it was great that one thing I appreciated is that in the past, when some of these questions have been presented to couples in past seasons, sometimes the couples will shy away from the questions, or they'll be uncomfortable with the questions, or they may answer, but the answer be kind of shallow. They're not really digging deep. I love that they, A, didn't shy away from the questions, and B, that they were very open and honest right away. It didn't seem like there was any hesitation, and that kind of speaks to how comfortable they are with each other. Because even if you're that kind of person where you talk about your feelings and you're not afraid to, talk about how, this made you look at the world different, or this made you look at your mom different, or whatever, sometimes it depends on who you're talking to. Because I can be very open and all that stuff. I'm communicative. This is what I do. But around certain people, I may only give them part of the story, because I may not be comfortable enough to share all of myself with them. So I love that, at least with Gina and Clint, they seem very comfortable with each other. And that means that they've created a safe space for each other to be vulnerable. And I really appreciate it. I thought that was a great moment in the episode last night, one of my favorite moments. And then after, they did that, they did the whole sailing thing, which was really cute. And she was asking him questions. I was really curious about seeing his world. I thought that was great. And then they went to see professional bull riding for the first time. I've read about bull riding, and like some of the stories I read, I've never seen it in person. I love, though, that they both had that adventure of wanting to do something different. Like, ooh, this is just right down the street from my house. Let's do this. This should be cool. So they had on their cowboy boots. Clint had on his little cowboy belt and his hat. And I like couples that do that. You're experiencing something for the first time. And the fact that they both love doing that, I think, again, this is allowing them to see, oh, okay, this is why we're matched together, because we both have the same kind of energy. We both like adventure. We both like doing new things. We both like getting out the house. So I'm hopeful that this is going to lead to some other stuff. I feel like they have that part of the marriage pretty much down pat, where we're listening, we're respectful of each other, we have been exposed to each other's worlds. Now they need to take all of that great energy that they have and turn it into more of the physical stuff. That's what I'm really hoping that happens. I'm hoping in the next few episodes, the experts will give them some exercises that will lead them to more intimate things. And, that takes me to not one of my points, but this is something I have been thinking about. We have the two main experts, Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal. We did have Dr. Viviana, who was like the sex therapist and focused primarily on intimacy. They have not replaced her. They've had a couple other experts who have come in sporadically and like talked to the couples or whatever. But we need a permanent replacement for Dr. Viviana. You need to have that person whose sole thing is all about intimacy. That needs to be a part of the process when you're choosing the couples. They need to replace her. And from what I've heard, this is season 16, but from what I've heard, they've already have season 17 and season 18. They already started like casting for those seasons. So it's like, you need to have somebody there, like sex therapy or just sex and intimacy person. That is critical when you're choosing these people. So that's my little soapbox moment. So Gina and Clint, very happy for them. I thought they did well. We're going to go, to Jasmine and Airris. Now, since the season has started, I have not had the same reaction to Airris that a lot of other people have had. I have not been mad at him. I have not been irritated with him. I have not thought that he's immature. He's whatever. I haven't said anything bad about Airris for the most part. I'm like, oh, Airris is just being him. He's being honest. He's blah, blah, blah. This was the first time that I was like, oh, I get it. I understand what everyone has been saying. I've always understood what you guys have said. I just kind of tried to take a different approach because I wanted to have faith in him. This was the episode where I was like, okay, now you lost me. I can no longer defend you in this moment. So Airris caught COVID, right? And so he caught COVID and he's like, your boy, I'm down. And, Jasmine is trying to take care of me, but, she's working. So he gave her a 7 in terms of taking care of him. But he did say something. He was like, I got COVID. And, since she's working, I had to fend for myself. I had to feed myself. I want to be like, you would have had to feed yourself regardless. If you got COVID, like, she's not about to be there spoon feeding you so she can get COVID too. I was kind of taken aback by that, like, bruh. And he jokes sometimes. I think Airris is very funny, but I didn't think he was joking in that moment. He was like, man, I had to fend for myself and I had to feed myself. You're supposed to. You have COVID. She's not supposed to be all up in your face. That's not how this works. So that already annoyed me. And it also annoyed me. And someone else mentioned this in one of the comments. Because I am married. My husband had COVID, right? So I remember when he had COVID, he was quarantined to our bedroom. I stayed in a different part of the house. When I brought him food, I would leave it at the door and I would text or call him from inside the house like, hey, your food is outside. Go get it. Let me know when you're done. If I did have to go into his room, I had my mask on, had my Lysol, but I didn't come into the room often. You're supposed to keep your distance because obviously we're not trying to get COVID. We ain't trying to have a house full of COVID people, right? So you're in a 2-bedroom apartment with your wife. Why are you on the couch? This is the living room. She's walking through this living room repeatedly to go to work, to walk her dog, to go to the kitchen to make your stinking food. Why are you in the living room, in the common area, spreading your COVID germs in the common area where she is? Why didn't you move to the spare bedroom while you were in quarantine? And I'm assuming that's kind of where he was because he did do a video where he's laying in bed. So I'm assuming that was like the spare bedroom. You're supposed to stay in there. That's what quarantine means. Quarantine, especially if you're sharing an apartment with somebody, that doesn't mean, oh, okay, I'm going to be quarantining the whole apartment. I'm just going to kind of go wherever. No, bruh. You stay in the bedroom. You're bored. I don't care. You got COVID. You don't come to the common area. And then the whole time that he has COVID and the whole time he's in the common area, I didn't see one mask. I didn't see no Lysol. What are you doing? COVID is still a thing. I know that people, not everybody wears masks anymore. And I understand that. I don't judge you for it. But I do wear a mask, right? When I go out in public, I still wear a mask. It just makes me more comfortable. But especially if I'm in an apartment, a small enclosed space and you have COVID and you are in the community area spreading your COVID germs, if I'm Jasmine, I'm at least going to wear a mask when I bring you food, when I give you a blanket, whatever. I'm at least going to wear a mask and at least going to like spray Lysol around the kitchen or whatever, because you're in the common area. What are you doing? I was so annoyed by that. That just like triggered me a little bit. Like, bruh, what? Why? Why? What are you doing? And again, he was like, you know, in terms of nursing me and taking care of me, I give Jasmine a 7. I don't know what he expected. And someone was like, he expected her to wait on him hand and foot. That's not what we do. I'm sorry. And I'm the first to admit, I am not the most patient when it comes to taking care of my husband, specifically when he's sick. Because men, when they're sick, are a whole different level of women when they're sick. When I'm sick, I'm still responsible for doing stuff in the house. Like, I just am. So if I'm sick, I am still making food. I am still ironing clothes. I am still, you know, ordering groceries, whatever. I'm still doing the things I need to do because they need to be done. A man, when he's sick, oh, the world is over. I can barely move. I can't lift my head up. Oh my gosh, can you feed me my soup? Help lift my head up so the soup can dribble down my throat. No, we're not doing all of that. And I think Jasmine, you know, at the same time that he's sick, she still has a full-time job. She's got this dog to take care of. She's still got stuff to do. So I think she did what she could, but I would have definitely been like, Airris, you cannot come out here in the living room. Because now you want me to get COVID too? And what's going to happen when I get COVID? Are you actually going to take care of me? Which bothers me. This brings me to another point. Whenever he talks about Jasmine, the 3 things he focuses on, he's not attracted to her. He believes that she'll bend over backwards to take care of him. And he believes that she is like halfway in love with him already because she just likes him that much. Those are the 3 things that he focuses on all the time. Yeah, Airris is, this episode, he made me so irritated. They had the same conversation topics that Gina and Clint had. Perfect time to get to know the other person. Great time to learn more about, you know, their childhood, past relationships, how they view the world, you know, all these deep things. These are deep questions to ask. They get all of these questions and they asked some of them. He asked her how many times she's been in love. She said 3. Obviously, he's never been in love. We know that. And he asked her if love scares her. I thought that was a fine question to ask. And it's interesting, though, because it shows how, I won't say all men, because all men are not like Airris, obviously, and all women are not like Jasmine. But he was close to telling a woman that he loved her. And I guess had emotions that mirrored love for him. The closest he's ever come. And before he got to that point, the woman like broke up with him or whatever. And he was so hurt by that 13 years goes by with him having his guard up. I can't speak for all women. Most women, once they've reached a certain age, have had their heart broken at least once, maybe twice. I don't know any woman that's gonna just shut her heart off for 13 years because she's afraid of getting hurt again. Yes, heartbreak sucks. It is not a fun feeling. It's terrible. But most women I know will have that experience, have your heart broken, be sad, be pissed off, whatever. But at some point, you're gonna be like, okay, you know what? Let me think about what I got out of that relationship. Let me think about what I could have done differently. And now let me think about what he could have done differently. Now I have my healing, right? And it could take a certain period of time. It could take a year. It could take a couple of years. Who knows? But 13 years of you not opening your heart to anybody, I feel like most women are not going to do that. And even Jasmine was like, yeah, I've had my heart broken. Just like, but I'm not the kind of person who's going to give up. It's like, you know what? I still believe that my forever person is out there. I still believe that I'm going to find this great love. So of course I have to open my heart up to experience that love that I know is still out there for me. So it's very interesting that that's his mindset. It's like, okay. And he asked her if she was falling in love with him. And I loved her answer. I think he asked her, I'm sure that wasn't one of the questions on the card. I think he asked her because, again, he keeps harping on the fact that she is so much more into him than he's into her. So I think he probably assumed she was going to say yes, or probably assumed that she was going to say, oh, I'm so close. And I love that she was honest and was like, no, I'm not. She's like, do I want to be in love with you? Of course I would like to be in love with my husband. But no, I'm not in love with you right now. I don't think she even likes him that much right now, honestly. And I don't think she's even close to being in love with him. She's like, we need more of an emotional connection, and we're not there. So, and I like that she was honest about it. I really like that, because I want to make sure he knows that she's not so blinded by the idea of being in love that she's just going to accept any old thing and say, oh yeah, I'm falling in love with you because you're my husband. She's not dumb. That's not what she's doing. And we definitely see more of Jasmine's, I don't say her guard come down, but every episode we're seeing more and more of her frustration, especially this episode, right? Because again, you have the time. This is the time to get to know your spouse, to ask these questions, to kind of dig a little deeper. And what does he do? He says, you know what, since I'm such a sexual person, I'm going to play Never Have I Ever with my wife. And so now he's asking all these questions that are just all sex-based, right? Have you ever had sex in front of someone? Have you had a threesome? Have you kissed someone of the same sex? And she's like, she's answering the questions, but she hasn't put any fingers down for the most part, because she's like, well, I haven't done those things. And he's like, well, yeah, I can tell my wife is more reserved when it comes to sex. Like, I get it, but I want to kind of feel like where she is right now. Couple things. One, you missed a great opportunity to really get to know your wife. She just told you she wants a more emotional connection, and you took that. Not even you took that. I think you completely dismissed that and focused on the fact that you're such a sexual person. So let me ask you questions about sex. One, you missed an opportunity to really get to know your wife and really tap into what she's telling you that she wants. She's telling you what I need from you, and you're not giving that to her. So that's one. Two, why are you asking her all these questions about sex when you have no interest in having sex with her? What does it matter what she's done? What does it matter if she's had an orgy? And also, why did you take the time to explain what an orgy is to us? We're not 12. Nobody watching Married at First Sight is under the age of, 18, 20? Like, we're all grown people watching Married at First Sight. Why the heck did you say, we don't need you to explain what an orgy is. We know what an orgy is, sir. Thank you. We don't need that lesson from you. Appreciate that. But again, you have no interest in having sex with her, and you've told her this multiple times. You've told us multiple times. So why ask these questions related to sex when it's not going to lead you to wanting to have sex with her? Like, I don't understand that at all. What was the point of all that? I feel like, not that his intention, well, actually, I don't even know what his intention was. I really don't. But I feel like that was unnecessary. I feel like that was kind of embarrassing a little bit for her to ask her all these questions on TV when, again, you have no intention of even having sex with her. So it's just a waste of her time. And again, you could have taken that time to really get to know your wife. The pastor told y'all, Pastor Cal, told you to focus on all those things that you like about Jasmine. If you don't find yourself physically attracted to her, all those things that you mentioned that you like about her, focus on those things, and eventually that will morph into the physical attraction. But you're not doing that. You're still focused on sex. But if she knows you don't even want to have sex with her, I'm sure she's confused as to why are you asking me this? Like, why? So this was the first episode where I was just so irritated with Airris. I was like, I can't defend you in this moment, brother. What you doing? What are you doing? And I put that, I was like, you're still not attracted to her. So how is playing this game helping with that? I don't understand. There was nothing. I couldn't with him. I was so annoyed with him in that moment. I was like, I cannot do this with you. So I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I need Airris to do something. I feel like he's not making any effort at all. None. And it's like, I need you to pick up the pace. I need you to do something. Let's come on. Let's do something. Oh, Lord. Okay. So Nicole and Chris, they did a couples massage, which was cute. He planned the couples massage, which I thought was cute. But then they're having conversation. I thought that was kind of weird. I know if I'm getting, now granted, I've never done a couples massage with my husband before. But when I'm getting a massage, period, I'm not trying to talk. Because the conversation, could turn into a stressful conversation depending on what the topic is. So why am I going to talk about something potentially stressful while I'm getting massaged? That's defeating the purpose of them massaging my stress out. So I thought that was already weird. We're not trying to have conversation. They're rubbing me down right now. I'll talk to you when this is over. That was just my little note. Like, what are you doing? She says she likes living with him. She said they have a nice balance with each other. She feels secure in his feelings for her. And they talked about their love languages, which I appreciated. She said physical touch is her number one love language now because she's with him, but it used to be the bottom of her list. And I think that's really interesting. If you guys do not know what the love languages are, Google the 5 love languages. They are physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and I always forget one. Physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, quality time, and acts of service. Those are the 5. And I was just having a conversation with someone about this recently. When it comes to love languages, especially when you're in a relationship, and it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a relationship between you and your parent, you and your child, you and a coworker. All of those things, your love language comes out in certain ways. So there is a difference, most of the time, there's a difference between the love language you want to receive from people and the love language you show other people. Because I'm a communicator and I talk a lot, my love language that I like to show people is words of affirmation. I love to physically tell people, you know what, you're important to me. I love you. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my husband. Thank you so much for showing up for me. I am that person that likes to give the words. I like to affirm the people around me. But when it comes to receiving, I like people to show me acts of service or quality time. Take the time to hang out with me, to see me, to call me, check on me, do something for me without me having to ask you, do something for me just because, make me happy. That's what I like to receive. And so I like that they are aware enough, that Nicole's aware enough to say, you know what, my love language was never physical touch. It's at the bottom. It's actually at the bottom for me too. It's normally number 1 for most men. And I like that she said it's number 1 for me now because I'm with you. Your love language can definitely change depending on who you're with. That is very, very true. So I like that they had that conversation. I thought that was interesting. And she's still talking about, I love you and asking him if he loves her. And it's like, it's been 2.5 weeks. You don't have to ask this man every single day. He's not going to ask you every single day. And even Chris said in his thing, he's like, I feel like she wants me to say it first. He was like, but I'm not going to rush into this. Like, we have forever, basically. I don't have to rush into saying I love you. It is too soon for me. It's been 2.5 weeks. Leave that man alone. Let him chill. And I just hate that she keeps bringing that up. It's like, girl, would you relax? Like, it's not a race. Just chill. Especially if you guys like where you are right now. Don't rush something like that. So he talked about how attraction is key to a marriage and it helps love to grow. I like this scene because it was a preemptive strike kind of thing. So 3 weeks ago, well, I guess not really 3. Well, they've been married 2.5 weeks. Either way, early on in the season, he had a little aside. They were asking him, what do you think about your wife? Are you attracted to your wife? Because, producers like to ask those kind of questions. He said, I think she's beautiful. She has a beautiful smile, beautiful eyes. She's a little thicker than I would normally like, but I love it. Like, it looks really good on her, whatever. And, obviously all this stuff has been filmed a while ago. So at this stage, March 9th, 2023, they have probably already made their decisions, but now they're going back and watching these episodes. Because one thing to film your individual scenes, but they haven't seen the other couple scenes, or they haven't seen how things have been, spliced together by the editors. So he was telling her about this comment because he didn't want her to see it later on and misconstrue it. And so I did like the fact that he was giving her a heads up about these comments, but letting her know, this is what I meant, though. It wasn't meant to offend. I just want you to understand, like, what I was saying. So I did appreciate that he did that. And she handled it beautifully. That's one thing I will say about Nicole. Nicole is very good at, I don't think she's tempering herself, but she's very mature. She's very good at handling something that could have potentially been uncomfortable, something that could have potentially caused an argument. And she was like, well, it is a little jarring that my husband made those comments because she has body dysmorphia. And she said she was a little shocked, but she basically told him, okay, I understand what you were saying, but I think just in the future, maybe you should avoid using the word thick. She was like, because, it could potentially be hurtful for me down the road. So I think we should just avoid using that kind of language. And that was it. And he was like, okay, I get it. And I love that. But I think that she's only able to respond in that way because of how he's been treating her up to this point. If he had been, let's say, Clint, and Clint is cool now, but if he had been like Clint was on the honeymoon, Nicole, I think, would have cursed him out and like let it be that. But because Chris has shown her nothing but patience and just a really calm environment and just really liking her and being there for her, that's why she was able to communicate with him in that way, which I thought was good. So it wasn't like a big argument necessarily, but it was a nice, cute moment. It was like, okay, learning lesson. I won't call you that again. Okay, great. And we're good. So I appreciated that. Oh, God. Okay, Shaquille and Kirsten. They both annoyed me this episode. They both did. So Kirsten is FaceTiming her friend, and she's talking about how I just want to spend time with Shaquille, but he's like working really crazy hours, and I feel like I'm not getting that quality time with him. And a lot of times when he comes home, I'm in the bed already because he comes home so late. And then I had to look to see what his moniker is, and his moniker is the devout workaholic. Now, I understand having a lot of stuff on your plate, but you also have a wife now. So you do have to find that balance of being with her, especially if she's told you repeatedly that her love language is quality time. That is what she needs from you. She needs you to spend time with her, to make her more of a priority. And I did like that she acknowledged in this episode that, I know that I'm being needy, but I think it's because it's so new. And again, I think she's one of those people that has the deadline on top of her head. Like, oh my gosh, we have 5.5 weeks and I still don't know enough about you. And we got to spend time together. Okay, come on, let's do it. So I think she's like feeling that pressure. And so she's like, that's resulting in me being needy. I apologize for that, but it's still so new. And I want to spend time with you. I want to get to know you better. So I like that she wants to spend time with him. I like that she has made it clear to him. Now he just has to move some things around to make that happen. He annoyed me though, because he invited his mentees over, which was fine. I thought that was cute that she finally got a chance to meet these 4 young men that he spends a lot of time with, that he's like nurturing and all that stuff. I thought that was cool. But he told them that I guess they asked him, what kind of sacrifices have you had to make so far in your marriage? And he said, well, I was up for a job that was out of town. It's a role that I really wanted, but I turned it down because I made a commitment. I'm married, and I made a commitment to be with my wife in Nashville. Her response was, I don't want him to end up resenting me, but I appreciate the fact that he put me first. My response would have been, why the freak you ain't talked to me about this before? Why am I hearing about this in front of your mentees on TV? Why am I just now hearing about this? Why wasn't this a conversation that we had together? And he's saying, well, I had to be a man in that moment and make a decision. This is what he says in his like individual thing. Okay, I understand you being a man. I get that. And yes, the decision is ultimately yours, but you are not by yourself anymore. We are now married. That's a big life decision. And granted, maybe I don't want to move out of Nashville, especially because we've only been married for a short period of time. Maybe that wouldn't have been the cards for me. However, you didn't even give me the chance to talk to me about it. And I don't know if it's because, I don't know. I think, again, he's just focused on, I'm the man and this is what I need to do. And Kirsten, I do feel like, has very traditional Southern values and very traditional idea of what a husband is and what a wife is. So I think that's why she didn't take the approach that I'm taking. Like, why didn't you talk to me about it? She's more like, oh, okay. Yeah, my husband, he did this and that's my husband. And it's like, no. Well, I can't say no. For me, that would have been an issue for me. Why wouldn't we have discussed this? Like, I don't like that. Because you doing this now, early in the marriage, who's to say this isn't like your normal thing, that you normally will make decisions that you feel like are best for the family without discussing with me. And yes, I do believe that a man should be the head of the household and a woman should be submissive to him. I believe that. But I think that people misconstrue those roles a lot. And they assume that the setup is like this, where Shaquille just makes all the decisions for the family and then tells his wife about it later. That's not really what that means. Every household is different, but at least in my household, that's not how that works. That means if there's a big decision to be made, we discuss it together and we figure out what is the best solution for our family together. You may have the final say, but it's not like we don't discuss it. It's not like you don't take my feelings into consideration or you don't take my advice under consideration. We have an actual discussion about it. So I didn't like that he didn't talk to her about that. I was not a fan of that at all. And he said, even before that, he's like, I want to give her my attention, but I also want to be happy going to the gym and being with my friends. And it's like, you can do both. Like, there's a world that exists where you can do both, but it's up to you to find that balance. Yes, as a married person, you deserve to still have your own life, meaning if you, before you were married, you went to the gym, you hung out with your friends, you went on trips with your friends, you had this wonderful job, you did this, you did that. A marriage doesn't mean that you give all that stuff up, but it does mean that you have to work extra hard to make sure that not only your marriage fits into your life, but also your marriage gets in a position where it trumps all those other things. Because now that you have this person, this husband, this wife, whatever, that marriage, that relationship is supposed to come before all of those things. And that's probably a harder transition than just adding the marriage into the mix in the first place. But it does have to get to a point where that takes precedence. That is your priority. Then after the marriage, you can focus on all the other stuff and figuring out how to make it work. And you can either have things the way they were, or maybe some things are just going to have to be shortened a little bit. If you went to the gym 5 days a week, maybe now you only go 3 days a week. If you used to go on road trips with your friends every weekend, maybe now you do it 1 week in a month or every other month. It doesn't mean you're giving things up permanently, but you do have to make those changes, but you have to be the one to change them. Kirsten can't change that for you, Shaquille. You have to be the one to do it. And she's not asking you to give everything else up. She's just saying, make me a priority and spend time with me. So you got to figure that out, bro. You got to do that, especially if she's telling you what she wants. So, and he said that in his thing, he's trying to give her what she wants. But the question I have was, well, what do you want? Because yes, you're trying to give her what she needs in terms of quality time. But what exactly do you want from her? Have you vocalized what you want from her? This is before Kirsten pissed me off in the episode. So he took her to a plant store because he loves landscaping and loves plants. And they had this whole argument about plants. It was stupid. I'm like, I don't care. I don't do plants. I was like, I don't care about none of this stuff. So she set up a little spa day for them in the house. Very cute gesture. They're wearing robes and they have a little eye mask on. They got their feet in this little like foot bath. She gave them a little back massage. So it was a cute thing to do. She likes to cater to her man. She called him handsome, and she made me mad. She's like, we're taking our relationship to a different level tonight, and I'm so excited to take care of him because he works so hard. And it's like, again, the intention is there. Great, you're taking care of your man. This is great. You're doing something different. I don't know what new level she thought they were getting to because there was nothing new that happened. He mentioned last episode or the episode before last with Pastor Cal. I try to get to know her, but whenever, she was like, well, I ask him questions all the time. He's like, yeah, she asked me questions, but whenever I volley the questions back to her, whenever I ask her a question, she volleys it back to me. So I don't really get to know her. That was like one of his complaints. We got to see that in real time last night. They have their eye mask on, which I thought was interesting because there was an exercise that like a previous couple did last season or season before last, where they had to ask each other tough questions, but they did it with the eye mask on because it just made them, because they couldn't see the other person's reaction to what they were saying, it made them braver, I guess, to really speak their truth. So I liked that they had the mask on and they were talking. I was like, oh, okay, cool. They're going to be vulnerable. This is going to be great. And she asked him, let me see, what did she ask him? I guess she asked him, like, what is something I don't know about you? And he talked about insecurities he had growing up. He was like, I didn't play sports. I was always like, into the books or whatever. I felt like I had to compensate because I wasn't in the sports. So let me be really good at academics. And I got a scar on my forehead from when he had this like bad car accident. And he's like, I've had insecurities. Excuse me. And she was like, oh, no, you're handsome. And, you strive for excellence. And I think that looks so good in you. I think that's great. So then he turns it around on her like, okay, so what's something that you want me to know? She's like, oh, there's so many things you don't know. It's okay. Well, tell me one. Well, then there's really not anything to tell. Girl, he's asking you, tell me something. If you know that there's a lot of stuff he does not know about you, talk to him. And she didn't mention, I was in a relationship, the relationship, I guess, before this marriage. She was in a relationship for 4 years. Obviously, it didn't work out. And after that, she started putting her guard up a little bit. But after she even said with that 4-year relationship that her guards were never all the way down. So it's like, why stay in that relationship then if this person obviously didn't make you comfortable enough to let your guard down? And Shaquille, I love that Shaquille is trying to be patient, but he's not going to let her get away with not saying anything. Then he's like, look, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm trying to get to know you, and I understand you're shy or whatever. He's like, but we're married now. So what's it going to take? Like, what can I do to actually help you let your guard down? Like, I don't know what else I can do. I'm trying to provide an environment where you can talk to me. I even went first and told you my stuff. Like, I don't know what else to do, but you have to let your guard down eventually. Cause like, how are we going to make it as a married couple? Like, he just kind of went on. And I appreciate it because he was being open and honest. Like, look, we started with commitment. So if you're committed, we need to talk about this. Like, we need to just talk. Like, blah. And he said he wants to learn to make it work with that. Oh, I thought it was a great thing. He said he wants to learn how to make it work without the experts or the other couples being around. Basically, I'm trying to do this with you forever. The experts ain't going to be there forever. The other couples are going to move on and do whatever they want after the 8 weeks. They ain't going to do with us. I'm trying to make sure we have a foundation. We have something strong and solid to stand on for the rest of our lives. But we don't have that if you don't open up to me. And he said all of that and let it out. I appreciated him saying that. And then after they took the eye mask off, she's like, thank you so much for being patient with me. This is my problem with that. Yes, you can thank him for being patient, but nowhere in that statement did you make an indication that things are going to get better, that you were actually trying, that, this is my issue, but I'm going to get there. Like, I didn't get that you're actually trying in this process. You're just saying, thank you for being patient. That's it. Like, I don't get nothing else. Like, no, nothing. I need to hear from you that you're actually actively trying to let your guard down. I need to hear from you what it is that has your guard still up. I need to get something from you so I can feel like I'm not the only one making an effort. Because you want me to make an effort to put you first and to spend quality time with you. So if I'm actively doing that by going out with you and all that stuff, I'm doing that for you, then what are you doing for me? You told me that you want quality time. I told you I need you to open up. So what? I can't be the only one making these sacrifices, and I can't be the only one actually trying. So they both irritated me last night, but I was like, Kirsten, baby, he knows that you like him, which is great. You like him. You think he's attractive, all that stuff. But being a wife is not just about serving your husband. There is so much more to being a wife than that. And I'm glad you have that part down because that is important to you. But as a wife, you need to do what's important to you, but also what your husband needs. And you are not fulfilling that last part. And taking it to the next level with the spa thing. How's it taking it to the next level? You ain't even give my man a kiss. You could have at least kissed him on the cheek. We're not even getting that. No part of his body has felt your lips. You could at least kiss his head, kiss something. Like, I don't understand that at all. But that's my review and recap. Comment below. Like, let me know how you guys feel about Airris. I know you guys have not liked him from the beginning, and now I understand why. But let me know how you feel about Airris. Let me know how you feel about Gina and Clint, their progression. Make sure you like this video, share this video, comment below, subscribe to my channel, and click the notification bell. And I will see you guys next week. Peace.